Hello, welcome again to FairtaX Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton,
I'm Bob Scarborough.
and we are
The-
the FairtaX Guys.
we got some high tech openings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do, and I love these high-tech backgrounds. You may have noticed I've got a new one here.
Yeah.
I went up to Alabama, went to Tuscaloosa a few weeks ago to visit my brother, and then
Yeah.
we drove up to Chattanooga, took a steam train ride, which was fun. But
Nice.
we came back, and I actually got to take the stadium tour through
Oh,
Bryant-Denny Stadium there where the Crimson Tide plays football. And I was
that's
able to take some pictures. And so there's my picture from inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. And of course, if
fun.
we've got any Georgia fans or any Auburn fans that are watching, sorry, guys. But anyway, that was that was a really that's an interesting tour. If you're ever in Tuscaloosa, you need to take it. But we need to get moving on here with Fairtax Power Radio. Real quickly, though, we didn't get a chance to say much about this last week when Steve Hayes was with us. But this is the first ones we've reported after that nasty hurricane went through. And who would have thought that the hurricane would do more damage in North Carolina than it did in Florida? But how are you guys getting up there?
Well, as you know, time moves on and repairs get to be made. The tragic thing is nobody was expecting that much water, as you mentioned. Um, there were numerous flash floods, rivers, tributaries, everything was full to overflowing. And the challenges that face the folks in Watauga County, Avery, Buncombe County, where Asheville is, towns like Fosco and Spruce Pine and Burnsville, all suffering. Chimney Rock, where the little village there where the state park is, it's so popular, just totally devastated. People are still working to dig out. Power is being restored. Some roads are open, not necessarily to tourist travel or just general transportation, but some of those major roadways, the I's, the North Carolina roads, the U.S. roads, are slowly getting cleared. Damage assessments are being made. As you and I spoke off the air a moment ago, I-40, as you make your way to Tennessee, is going to be closed for a while. And I saw one report early in the process that said sometime at the end of 2025, and the other people are saying it might take longer. But the amount of death and destruction was beyond any comprehension, and especially for the folks that are living it now every day. And really is water is the big thing that everybody needs. So even if you're watching this program later, consider making a donation to Samaritan's Purse. Samaritan's Purse is based in North Carolina. While they are traveling through the states that were affected by Helene, they are boots on the ground here in North Carolina with volunteers, and that's something else you might consider. But
Mm-hmm.
consider donation to Samaritan Ministries,
Uh,
Samaritan's Purse, for that for the effect of directing some cash to the supplies that are needed.
okay, I bet I can tell you something about Samaritan's Purse that you don't know.
And that
Samaritan's Purse flies one of the last remaining airworthy DC-8s. It's based there at Greensboro High Point Airport over there. So that's whatever
nice.
that has nothing to do with the fair tax. We need to get back on topic here. And
Yes.
since we talked to Steve last week, we did not get a chance to start any fires here and get our little Congress.gov segment. And the Congress
Right.
critters are back doing what they normally do,
Oh,
constantly messing with the tax code. Let me kind of run through these things fairly quickly because we took a bit of time here. But the top on the list of the things the Congress are trying to do to the tax code is H.R. 9909, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide a credit for hazard mitigation projects in connection with certain working waterfront property. Got that?
waterfront property.
That's a Representative Pingree, Pingree from Maine. A credit for hazard mitigation projects. I guess that means if you build a railing across your dock so your kids won't fall in the lake, certain waterfront property. I just
Right.
made that up. I have no idea what that is, Beth. There's no text in that bill. But that's what it
What?
is. Moving along, our next one today is H.R. 9862. This is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to allow for the reallocation of unused volume cap for private activity bonds for qualified residential rental projects. It's stuff like that that is why people cannot understand what the Internal Revenue Code actually says. I see I have you totally speechless on that one. That's a
Yeah,
representative.
yeah, boy, I tell you, they'll come up with some doozies over there, won't they?
Yep, Representative Crockett of Texas. We can thank her for that one. All right, next one is H.R. 9856 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to establish, this is kind of similar, to establish an exception to the volume cap for certain bonds to finance the preservation, improvement, or development of affordable rental housing buildings. Man, can't have a tax code without that.
Yeah, you just can't. I mean, yet I'm surprised it took that long for them to figure that out, that they needed it.
Yes, next one on is HR 9844 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to increase the standard charitable mileage rate for delivery of meals to elderly, disabled, frail, and at-risk individuals. If you use your car for business, you keep track of how many miles you go to. They figure on a per mile basis how much it costs to operate your car, and they will give you a standard rate for how much each mile is worth as a tax deduction. And Representative Morell, Morelle from New York, District 25, wants to increase the mileage rate so you can have a bigger tax deduction if you're using your vehicle to deliver meals to elderly, disabled, frail, and at-risk individuals. And one more here. I got to scroll down a little bit here to find it. There it is. H.R. 9831 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to exclude certain dependent income when calculating modified adjusted gross income for the purposes of eligibility for premium tax credits. Again, the exclude certain income. We talked about that to some degree last week with Steve Hayes. Now,
Yep.
some incomes is taxed and some incomes isn't taxed, and it's always changing as to what is and what's not. Let's just quit taxing income entirely, not tax any income from any source at any time, and just pay your federal taxes when you buy things at the retail level, and that'd be a whole lot better than what we got.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the picking winners and losers is something that Washington, D.C. likes to do. They pride themselves on being masters at choosing winners and incentivizing certain categories of business and industry.
Oh, yeah, and they're always using the tax code to do that. Excuse me, I got to have some more cheer one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. But okay, let's move on here on Fair Tax Power Radio. It has been a while. We haven't really directly skewered the tax system for a while. We spent a good bit of time recently just going through the Fair Tax book. But every now and then, it is neat to just find an article like this. And this is actually several years old. This was written by a lady named Karen Lenhart, Lehnardt, senior writer at a Fact Retriever is the name of the website. And this was published in March of 2020. So it's about 4 years, a little over 4.5 years old. And 71 interesting tax facts. Some of these things are kind of crazy. I sent you the list. I'll just let you pick your favorite one right off the top. Go.
The federal tax code was 400 pages in 1913. In 2010, it was 70,000.
And in 2024, 14 years later, it's even a lot more than that. But started out, I'm imagining that 400 pages in 1913 when it first started. I'm surprised it was that much because the federal income tax, when it was first implemented in 1913, was actually fairly modest. I mean, you'd only pay like 1%, and a lot of people did not make enough income to qualify to pay it. But what it has morphed into today certainly merits its replacement by the fair tax, which is what we've been working on for quite a while. Now, here's something I didn't know: if you work be careful who you hire there at the radio station there, because it says if someone reports their company for tax evasion in the United States, he or she will receive 30% of the amount collected. Bet you didn't know that.
A commission basis, which means it's a gig worker, which means you'll get a 1099 non-employee compensation from the federal government.
Yeah, but that's it. They're encouraging people to snitch on their employers. They say if your company is evading taxes and you turn them in and we collect extra taxes as a result, you get 30% of it as a commission. I bet you didn't know that. At least that's according to what this article says.
Oh my goodness. Here's another one, number 34 on the list of 71. Albert Einstein once said the hardest thing in the world to understand, this is Einstein now. The hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax.
Wow. And the simplest thing in the world to understand is the fair tax.
Right behind you. Yeah, that's it, man. Well,
Uh,
the challenges that face Americans today are many and varied in
mhm.
terms of living a life. Like, how are we going to pay for kids' education? If you're a young person, how are you going to get that first house, the home, the foundation of life in America? Uh, how are you going to buy groceries just on a rolling month to month basis? There's a lot of challenges out there for people. What happens when your headlight goes out and you don't have the $25 or $30 to go buy another one? You don't have it until next Friday, and all of a sudden you're driving around like a cyclops out there with one headlight. What about your tires on your car? That's expensive. That's $600 or $800 depending on the kind you buy.
Mhm.
Yeah, people have a lot of decisions to make right now, and the fair tax would first of all put a lot of relief on your budget right away, because you would not have the burden of your federal income taxes withheld from your paycheck. Your boss would not have his portion of taxes that would be due on your ticket for your paycheck, and then you have the other side of it is you get the prebate, the money that you get to untax you up to the poverty level. I mean, it's just amazing that, and we talked on our episode last week with Steve Hayes, about people are now waking up to the realities of the largesse in Washington. We have a lot of work to do in that regard, for sure.
That we do. We're looking at a website called factretriever.com, an article 71 interesting facts about taxes. And number 39 is something that the fair tax will address quite elegantly. This is an old estimate in 2007. It says the IRS estimates that in 2007, Americans who didn't pay their taxes collectively owed more than $345 billion in taxes. We have hit on this time after time after time here on Fair Tax Power Radio about how easy it is to evade the federal income tax. It only takes one person who can do a little creative math on a tax return to evade the income tax. Evasion under the fair tax will be almost unheard of. It is very, very difficult. It won't be zero, we'll admit that. There'll be some people, or some will find a way to get around it. But evasion under the fair tax is going to be much, much, much harder than under the income tax. I mean, how do you evade a tax that's part of the price of the things you buy? How do you evade a tax for the person who is collecting that tax from you under the fair tax, talking about the retailers? They are incentivized to collect the tax because they get to keep a little portion thereof. And it would take their cooperation if you are able to avoid the fair tax. So it takes two people instead of one, and the other person whose cooperation you would need to evade the fair tax is being incentivized to collect it from you, not help you evade it. So number 39 there is good. I would imagine that the updated figure for this year is considerably more. But just people who just don't pay their taxes collectively owed more than $345 billion. And of course, some of the people that don't pay their taxes are people who are making their income by less than legal means, that they don't report their income because it's not legal the way they get it. They steal their neighbor's lawnmower and they don't report the fair market value of that. There are just so many ways to avoid the income tax, and the fair tax solves that problem elegantly. I'm amazed that more people in Washington aren't in favor of the fair tax because it'll put a lot more money in the federal coffers for them to mess with.
And again, we always talk about that. And I think one of the challenges is they don't know how they would curry favor with lobbyists in Washington if they change the makeup of how they do business. Here's something that follows along with how to evade taxes. This is number 20 on the list of 71 interesting facts about taxes. In 1691, England taxed the number of windows on a house.
Wow.
But what do you think happened?
Well, I think they were, if you tax something, you get less of it. So people would build houses with fewer windows.
Right. They would build houses with fewer windows or would close up existing ones. And when people began to suffer from health problems from the lack of windows and air, the fresh air from outside, the tax was finally repealed in 1851. But it went for
Oh, mercy.
a couple of hundred years, Bob, before they it just is amazing some of the things. But that's an example of exactly how taxing things works. You tax something, you're going to get less activity around it.
Yes, and the federal income tax that we all love and deal with for all our lives, they tax savings. You're taxing is savings, you're taxing investment, the things that make a healthy economy. Every economist, regardless of which side of the aisle they're on, will agree that savings and investment is what drives a healthy economy. But if you have a tax system that taxes savings and investment, you get less of it. The economy is less healthy. Under the fair tax, your taxes are on your retail purchases only. You do not pay taxes on what you save. You do not pay taxes on what you invest. You can invest for your college. You can invest and save for a down payment on a house. Anything that you'd want to invest or save for. Under the fair tax, you do it totally tax free. So yeah, the savings and investment are going to just skyrocket under the fair tax, and the economy is we've said a lot of times that the fair tax would be rocket fuel for the economy simply because it does not tax the things that create a healthy economy. Savings and investment not taxed under the fair tax. Sit
Correct.
on that for a while.
Here's a funny one from Ireland, Denmark, and other European Union nations have started to tax cattle owners on cow flatulence.
Oh, no. Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Which number is that one? Let's see if I can
Number
find that.
44, number 44.
Oh,
The,
okay.
the tax is $18 per cow in Ireland and $110 per cow in Denmark. They hope to curb greenhouse gases, of which cows are responsible for 18%.
I wonder how
Now,
they figured that out.
I couldn't tell you. I would guess somebody's standing on the south end of a northbound cow for a minute and with a wind barometer there or something. But
Oh,
you know,
mercy.
the challenge is there's a fee that's going on the cows for how many cattle you have. A cost that goes where? Where does that go? Does it go to the local government? And what are they doing with that money? That I mean, the cow. How do you help? How do you take care of a cow that's doing what they normally do? They eat grass and they have flatulence.
Well, they turn grass into steak is what I'd like, but I did not know this. I'm going to have to ask Andy about this next time I see him. Number 37 on our list of 71 interesting facts about taxes says that Alabama is the only state in the United States to impose a 10-cent playing card tax for decks of cards purchased in the state. And by contrast, Nevada issues a free deck of cards with every tax return. I hope this author has her facts straight on this, but that's interesting.
That was what I was going to say. That the credits at the bottom of the page, that's sitting on number 4, but I don't see anything down here where the girl that wrote the article has actually um, has
We may.
actually attributed it to any particular report or anything. So that's
Oh,
interesting.
mercy. Okay, but that's a tax on cards you buy. Now, I like number 61.
Okay.
This one's got a picture with it too that we can't show you on the radio that says in Britain,
Oh,
Lady
it's
Godiva, Lady Godiva made her famous au naturel ride as a tax protest.
yeah.
Uh, okay.
Not much we can say about that other than you need to go see a picture of Lady Godiva. And for those of you who know, you know.
No, we're not promoting that stuff, but we're promoting. But the fact that you have, of course, this wasn't the U.S. federal income tax that she was protesting, but the fact that it's a tax system that deserves to be protested to that extreme degree, and I imagine our federal income tax does indeed fall into that category, deserves to have that kind of protest made against it. But we just need to replace the entire federal income tax system with the fair tax. That's what we're doing here. And we are looking at some just the crazy things. I say this article goes all over the world. I'm trying to find ones that have to do with the U.S. and our federal tax system.
There's
And
number
let's
69. Number
number
69
okay.
deals with the very early years of income tax. When Americans started paying annual federal income tax in 1913, they would save money in anticipation of paying a lump sum to the federal government. It wasn't until World War II, when the government needed a more consistent stream of income to fund the war, that taxes started being withheld from paychecks. Imagine
That
that.
that is a Boss Hogg idea. I remember seeing that on the Dukes of Hazzard. That Boss Hogg was going to give everybody, do everyone this fantastic favor by withholding their county taxes from their paychecks, and of course he would collect all the money. But that withholding, you have hit on that. That is, I think, the most insidious part of the entire federal tax system. It has ingrained people to to just think that the government owns part of their money. They get their paycheck. They don't look at the gross amount. They have no idea how much they earn. All they do is look at the bottom and see what the net amount is. Oh, I make this. Ask somebody how much money they make and say, well, I'll take home X number of dollars a week. It has blinded people to the fact that the government is robbing them blind by taking money off the top of their paycheck before they even see it. And they've got people so conditioned to that system that they don't even miss it. I mean, I remember mentioning this to you once before. If you were in the lawnmower stealing business and you could have a way to steal somebody's lawnmower without them even knowing it was gone, that would be just wonderful if they were in that particular business. But now that the federal government just gets its grubby little paws on your paycheck, it takes a big chunk of it before you even see it. You don't even miss it. You don't even consider it your money hardly anymore. And that's just immoral. That's just wrong. And that goes away with the fair tax. The fair tax lets you bring home 100% of what you make, minus, of course, any voluntary deductions if your employer deducts stuff from your pay for insurance or savings or something like that. But the federal government will not take a dime of your paycheck before you get it under the fair tax.
And that's exciting. That's an exciting concept when you stop and think about it for a minute. Because if you watch the news and you listen, to what people say, and you mention, getting rid of the income tax, well, automatically they're going to go in a direction that may not be, part of a beginning of a conversation, an honest conversation about it. They just want to blow you off to the side and get on with something else. But if you stop and think about what Bob just said for a minute, revolutionary. We get control of when we spend the money, when we pay the tax, it happens at the cash register. And that is part of it. The other part of it is the privacy part of it, where the federal government through the Internal Revenue Service doesn't know a thing about. I was going to insert another word there, but I decided not to. It's not going to know a thing about what you are doing with your finances or in your life. And I think that's
Yep.
as big a reason than any. Number
Yep.
60, number 60 on the list of 71 facts about taxes is this. Can't substantiate it, can't find where this might be said, but I can imagine that an IRS agent once said this. This particular IRS agent that they're quoting in this article anonymously wrote, quote, "There is no important piece of information concerning you I am forbidden to seek."
In other words, the Internal Revenue Service has a blank check to find out anything about you that they want and dig as deep into your private affairs as they feel like. And that's just plain wrong. I got time for one more here. I'm going to go all the way almost to the bottom of the list, number 70. The largest tax evasion case, we mentioned evasion a bit earlier, the largest tax evasion case in the history of the U.S. is the 2006 case of Walter Anderson, a telecommunications executive. Other famous tax cheats in our history include mobster Al Capone, Girls Gone Wild creator Joe Francis, Wesley Snipes, and hotel operator Leona Helmsley, who once quipped, and this is quoting Ms. Helmsley, "We don't pay taxes, only the little people pay taxes." And I guarantee if we had the fair tax, somebody as rich as Leona Helmsley would be paying a lot of fair tax because she buys a lot of stuff.
Well, I think we have a pretty great opportunity to move to the fair tax, convert from the income tax to a tax on consumption, which is HR 25 in the House. Call your senators, call your representatives. We still have opportunity to encourage them before the election is over to begin to think about this. Now, one thing that I'll say, I'm really glad that I did not live in France in the late 1700s, because
why would that be?
tax collectors there were sent to the guillotine.
Oh, mercy. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll just have to leave that right there. Again, this was factretriever.com, 71 interesting facts about taxes. If you'd like to look that up, see the whole list. But we are slap out of time again on Fair Tax Power Radio. Let me mention real quick before we go, it is almost time, just a couple of weeks away, that we'll be flying up here from Florida and doing our Fair Tax Power Radio show live on WTOB Sunday morning, October 20th. Of course, we are going to videotape that and play it back on our regular podcast channels. But if you're listening to the radio station, either over the air or over the internet, on Sunday morning, October 20th, you will have the opportunity to call us and talk to the FAIRtax Guys live. We certainly would love to talk to you. And then we get to go to Mr. Barbecue for lunch the next day. It's just, I'm looking forward to this trip for sure.
We'll get a picture of Bob and his favorite meal with his favorite fountain drink. Cheer wine.
They actually have cheer wine in the fountain there, and this stuff's made right there in North Carolina, Salisbury, I believe. And so Mr. Barbecue has cheer wine in their fountain drink machine. We'll definitely get some of that. But that's going to do it for this week in the FAIRtax Power Radio. Again, thank you much for listening and sharing the videos. That is important that you do that. Until we meet again, I'm Bob Paxton.
Bob Scarborough.
We're the FAIRtax Guys, reminding you the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
we'll demand it.
So tell me, how could I pay less taxes?
Less?
Yeah, I'm trying to get ahead, so how can I pay less?
Well, I suppose you could pay less taxes by earning less money, or you could give to charity.
How is that going to help?
Actually, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but if you know the right people, okay, or if you have a really good lawyer, you can usually get around the big ones.
If I may, Under the fair tax, to pay less taxes, you would simply consume less. You would control how much you pay and when you pay your taxes simply by choosing what you purchase and when you purchase something.
So I could stay focused and get ahead.